Welcome back once again. This is Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival, Autumn 2020. We are a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. And we are really excited because today we're going to share work from Angelique Clemens. She's a local Detroit, Michigan author. She writes urban romance, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about her book. And she's going to read a little bit for us when we're going to have some Q&A afterward. So, Angelique, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm so excited. This month, I get to meet so many new authors that I did not know existed before. And that, for me, is the most fun of putting on this event. I get to meet a whole bunch of really great people and learn about some new books and some new writing. It's just so much fun. Yes, and Andrew is your super fan. There he is.
Andrew's just crazy.
Andrew's nutty. So Angelique, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about your background and about what you got, how you got started writing.
Sure. So me getting started writing actually started as a elementary school child. My mother saw that I disliked English and I really loved math and science, and so she used to make me read her bedtime stories from her reading selection, which was all true crime novels. And so I used to read true crime novels to my mother, and she started ordering me Ellery Queen magazine. And
Cool.
Ellery Queen magazine actually has an essay contest in it. So me and my mother penned a short story about an inept killer and who ended up killing his own son. It was a great story. Killed him on horseback. It was great. Anyway, and so that was actually the first time I was published. And it was never something I sat down to think to do. It was just something that I always just did. In high school, I had some poetry published. My graduating class in high school, my French class, we were all required to write essays, because after 4 years of French, I decided we needed to be fluent. And so we could only speak in French in the class. We had to write everything. And the teacher took the best students' work and actually submitted it for publication. So my poetry was published in high school. And I am a scientist. I have degrees in science, and I've been writing, journal articles and chapters for scientific books for years, since I was 18, 19 years old. And so when I finally decided to sit down and start writing in fiction for myself, something I never really thought I wanted to do, I did it as a way to express some of the things that were going on in my life.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. How cool. You're like one of the first scientist creative hybrids I've met. I know very few in my lifetime, and most people can't cross that line, so congratulations. Yeah, Deborah's another one of them. So congratulations on that, and very cool that you got published so early in your writing career. I would love for you to, I don't have it handy, but if you have a copy of the book nearby, you do, there it is. I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit of the synopsis of this book, and then if you would read a selection.
Absolutely. So the book is titled, Can I Borrow Your Skin? And it is, the subtitle is Learning to Be the Fierce Person You See in the Mirror. So this book is about a woman named Nicolette. And Nicolette is a young professional woman from Detroit who her entire life, she wanted to forge out and become her own person. Like that was her goal in life. Like she needed to become who she wanted to be. And she had a sibling that died, and that's actually the selection that I'm going to, that is the selection that I'm going to read to you today. Is about when her brother dies. And after the death of her brother, she moves back to the city of Detroit. She gets thrown into the role of being a parent figure for her brother's children, and she realizes that she starts to relate to people around her by their definition of her and their relationship with her. And she notices through this process that she's actually borrowing other people's perception of herself and reflecting that back. And so she loses herself in the process. And throughout this novel and the rest of the novels that I write about Nicolette, you see her starting to, kick off everyone else's definition of herself and learn to redefine who she is based on who she is and who she wants to be.
Awesome. This sounds like a really intriguing story. Now you got me.
Thank you.
I would love it if you could read a little bit, and then about 10 minutes, maybe less, depending on how long your selection is. And then afterward, we'll do questions and answers from the crowd. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Awesome. The room is yours. Feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. And so I'm actually starting in the middle of chapter 1. And because I'm starting in the middle and I have only 10 minutes, I'm going to just tell you guys briefly what the preceding part was about.
Perfect.
So Nicolette's family gets together on Christmas morning at 6 a.m. She lives in Rochester, and so she gets up at 5, drives all the way to Detroit in the freezing cold to meet her family, which is 2 brothers, her parents, and her cousin, who's like a sister to her only sister. And so she gets there, and she's thinking she's going to be the last one there, but she's there right before 6, and she finds out she's not last. She's actually the first one there. So we're jumping in where Nicolette has been waiting on her brother Steve and her brother Charles. So a little later, Steve and his family arrive. They marched in a little disheveled, and Steve announced, "I am here. Sorry that we are late, but new baby and all. Hi, Niecy, Dana, Eric, Mom and Dad. Okay, we can open gifts now, right? Because I was last." Steve says while hugging everyone. "No," Nicolette smirks. "You're not last, Steve. Of course Charles has to be last. He is so selfish. Speaking of which, hey, Mom, what's up with that house that you guys just bought down the street? I thought it was supposed to be an investment property. Why did Charles move in?" Ernestine, Nicolette's mom, hushed her. "It is Christmas. We are not doing that today." Steve defended Nicolette to their mother before Nicolette could. "Nick has not said anything anti-Christmassy. We're all thinking it, and I suggest we sit down and talk to Charles after we open gifts, because you and Dad bought that house as an investment, and you don't want to be a landlord for them again, do you?" Nicolette saw her mother was getting frustrated and decided to defend her mother's position. "It's okay, Snick. I'll leave it alone. We have other things to talk about with Charles anyway." Just as she was finishing, Charles and his family walked through the door. "Merry Christmas, everyone." Charles spoke more to announce himself than anything. "Sorry that we're late." "Yeah, both of y'all were late, though I had to drive 45 minutes to get here. Even Dana made it, and she's not even a child." Dana laughed and took a sip of her Captain Morgan and Coke. "I was on time, so I got more brownie points. Child or not, I'm crushing this." Charles' kids rushed past the adults towards the gifts, and Ernestine happily starts bouncing around and passing out the gifts, and everyone shifted to Christmas and watching the smiling, laughing children. It did not take long for all the gifts under the tree to be distributed and opened. Ernestine and Steve, Charles and Nicolette go to the kitchen, where they begin to cook their breakfast of pancakes, bacon, and turkey sausage. "So," Steve started in, "you moved down the street last night?" Before Charles could answer, Nicolette added, "Yeah, I heard congrats are in order. So did you sell your other house or what?" Charles looked annoyed and exchanged gifts with his mother. "Yeah, I moved into the new house yesterday. Thanks for your congratulations. And no, we haven't sold the other house yet. We're actually not even done moving." So Nicolette nodded along with Charles's statement. "I see. Can you guys afford to carry both houses? I know that you're back working and all, but I did not think that you were making that much money." Nicolette's voice trailed off. Steve commented before Charles could answer. "Your extra money go to your medication since Andrea's insurance just kicked you off?" Nicolette looked confused. "Wait, what?" Charles sighed and looked angrily at Steve. That was not common knowledge, Steve." "Look, Nicolette," Charles says, addressing her. "I maxed out on my insurance through my wife's job, so I can't afford all of my anti-rejection medication, so we're rotating them for now. But I will be getting my insurance kicking in for my new job soon, and I'll be okay. Nicolette threw her hands up in the air, frustrated. Well, if you can't afford your medicine, you can't afford to buy a new house. This is ridiculous. Dad is retired. Mom is looking to retire. You can't expect them to pay for this house for you. You need your meds to live. Why don't you just move back around the corner and focus on your health? I mean, how short are you for your meds? I just got a raise at work. Maybe I can help. With a stark face, Charles said firmly, I am not moving back. Mom and Dad are not paying my bills. We're paying for them ourselves. I should be fine rotating the meds until insurance kicks in. I don't feel well, and I don't feel like standing here and getting lectured at. Ernestine watched her kids argue, and she had enough. Okay, either help me cook or leave the kitchen. In fact, I don't even need any of you guys' help. Well, except you, Nicolette. The rest of y'all can leave. Charles gladly left the kitchen. Steve followed behind him. Nicolette turned to her mom and said softly, Mom, you guys cannot carry that house for them. Aren't you being laid off from the board? A little uneasy, Ernestine muttered, I don't know, but I do have the most seniority, so I'll be the last to go, but I know cuts are coming. I do not plan on paying for that house. Charles and your father have worked out some plan. It's his money, his son. I'm not involved, but I am not going to be a landlord again. Ernestine waved her hands to signify she was done with the conversation. Nicolette nodded in agreement and dropped the topic. The women finished making breakfast and served the family. Steve addressed Nicolette. Are you off tomorrow or are you working through the holidays again? Nicolette replied with the biggest grin. No, I am off. And this is the first time in several years since being on this project that I actually have 2 days off. Alexander, their father, jokingly replied, wow, so you're no longer working like a Hebrew in Egypt? That means a lot. That means everyone is off tomorrow except Charles. Maybe we should get together and do something. Charles made a face. Well, maybe I'll call in. What are we going to do? Nicolette and Steve commented almost in unison. You cannot call in. You're still in your probationary period. Charles snarled them. I would call in because I don't feel well, not because I want to hang out with you guys. But what are we going to do tomorrow anyway? Ernestine snapped sharply at Charles. If you do not feel well, then you should go to the hospital and not worry about what we're going to do tomorrow. Charles did not dare to continue down that path of the conversation. The family watched the children play with their gifts and relax in the living room in front of the fire. Eric, Dana's husband, fell asleep on the couch, and Nicolette tidied up the mess. Nicolette left for home when her siblings went to their in-laws' house. She preferred being at home with a glass of wine rather than sit around with just her parents. The next day, Nicolette spent quiet time at home, and later on in the afternoon, she called her mother to find that Charles actually did call into work, and he went to the hospital. Typical Charles, she thought. Nicolette was talking to her best friend Joshua on the phone, venting about Charles taking advantage of her parents. You know Charles can't afford that house that my parents bought. He takes advantage of them and he gets whatever he wants, and I'm sick of it. Niecy, I hear you. It's been this way forever and it's probably not going to change, Joshua replied. Charles just moved into the house that my parents bought as an investment and decided it was for him because he loved the home and, more importantly, he loved the address. It was in one of the coveted neighborhoods of Detroit. Charles always wanted to be one of those nouveau rich kids, and the address signified that he made it. Neither Charles nor his wife had the financial ability to purchase the house, but that did not stop Charles from convincing my parents to let him live there once they actually bought it. Nicolette was laying against her headboard, thinking about Charles's inconsideration and his failure to take care of his health when the phone clicked in. It was her mother. Joshua, hold on. Let me see what my mom wants. Nicolette clicked over, and her mom said, the hospital just called. Your dad and Andrea are on their way there. Nicolette stared at the phone and said, okay, call me when you have an update. She clicked back over to Charles. She said, oh my God, I was complaining and I don't know what's going on. My dad and my sister-in-law just rushed to the hospital. I can't imagine my life without my brother. I take back everything I said. I want everything to be okay. As Nicolette was talking to Joshua, the call waiting alert went off again. Nicolette looked down at her cell phone and dread immediately overtook her as the contact name Parents Home displayed on the screen. Nicolette asked Joshua to hold on once again. Hello? Mom? And her mother just sobbed. Charles is gone, Nicolette. Charles is gone. I'm here, Mom, Nicolette exclaimed, and I'm on my way. Nicolette reassured her and hung up the phone with her mother. She clicked back over and was talking to Joshua. My brother just died. I was being selfish, and my brother just died. My last words to him were veiled contempt, and I cannot undo my last words to my brother. Oh my God, I have to be with my mother now. I have to get dressed. Nicolette cried to Joshua as she frantically found clothes to climb into. She chastised herself for berating Charles as Joshua tried everything to console her. She got off the phone with Joshua and began the 45-minute drive to Detroit. Nicolette had so much road rage that she ever had, and she was driving at least 90 miles per hour to get back home. She made her way down I-75, barely being able to see through her tears. She made it off the highway into her parents' house in about 20 minutes, but it was all a blur. She kept reminding herself that she had to be strong for her family. As Nicolette drove down the familiar street, winding along the rows of trees, she felt a sense of anxiety settling into herself. Christmas lights were still on the houses, ice and snow was still on the lawns and homes, and tears rolled down her face. Nicolette just kept playing the words of her mother over in her head. He's gone, Nicolette. Charles is gone. Nicolette's older brother, Charles, died in the hospital after rejecting his liver transplant. His family of 4 just moved into that house, and all Nicolette could remember was Christmas morning at their parents' house just 4 days ago, discussing Charles's finances and how he could not afford the house. His heart was set on providing a better home for his family with more space for each kid and just being able to live the life that he thought he was on borrowed time since he got his transplant 10 years ago. Nicolette couldn't help but remember that most transplant recipients don't live longer than 10 years with a donor organ. And she tried to push all of that out of her head and just think about her brother and his smile and her unfortunate last words to him. Nicolette pulled into the driveway at her parents' house, thinking about Charles lying cold at Henry Ford Hospital, just still replaying all their recent conversations. She got out of the car and was greeted at the door by her cousin Dana, who was more like a sister to Nicolette, and her younger brother, Stephen. I don't know what to do, Stephen exclaimed through tears. Charles was my best friend. My son will never know his uncle. Nicolette nodded her head. I know, she managed to mumble through the fog. Nicolette worked her way through the house to the kitchen where her mother Ernestine was making a cup of tea and chain smoking a pack of cigarettes. Nicolette hugged her mother and whispered that she is here. All she could say was, I'm here, continuously in her ear. 10 minutes. At least about 10 minutes.
Well done. Wow, that's quite a story. The dialogue is so compelling. I think you did a great job. Everybody, turn on your microphones. Do we have any questions or comments for Angelique?
I think that was just amazing the way that whole conversation went, how you got across how your family's the ones that know where to needle you and how to needle you, and you got that passive aggressive little like, you got that across without using any kind of tags to it. It was just a conversation, and it still came through so vividly. That was a pleasure to listen to you read.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it was very reminiscent of a couple of regretful conversations I've had with my brother. So yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely relate to that one, boy. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I
Andrew?
always have questions and comments.
I know, this is why I love you so much.
Oh, it's a Kodak moment. I was looking through your entries on Amazon, and I think it's really nice. I've asked in just about every reading about putting together compendiums or some type of guide for books, and you actually have one.
So I do have a guide to my book. So one of the things I did not mention in my summary is the fact that one of the things about Nicolette that is I think good is the fact that she does have an alternative lifestyle. And so many people grow up not being able to be their true selves, but because it's, most alternative lifestyles aren't as mainstream, and I do use some slang, I have a guide to explain the slang. And then because Nicolette, in trying to find herself and trying to build her self-love, she uses the mirror technique that is used a lot in psychology, where you literally affirm and talk to yourself in the mirror.
Mhm.
Which is why the subtitle of my book is Learning to Be the Fierce Person You See in the Mirror. So Nicolette talks to herself in the mirror a lot. And in my work, I actually do encourage people to use the mirror technique. It's actually a very great technique to use in psychology. And so I have a section of my guidebook which walks through the mirror technique and has actually a place for people to journal. And I also on Amazon, I don't know if you saw or not, actually have a book of affirmations as well. So
That's
people,
pretty cool. You're not just a fiction writer. You've got multi layers to your craft. That's very, very cool.
I do. And
That's
so,
very cool.
my book of affirmations, I think I got to 50 or 57, or it's an odd number. It's more than 50. It's not quite 60. So there's 50 plus, I think is what I put on the cover, affirmations that people can use if they're just starting to learn to use the mirror technique and talk to themselves in the mirror. And actually the last part of the guidebook to the mirror is actually discussion questions for different book clubs and things like that, because there are some deep themes in the book. It deals with a lot of generational issues. In the Black community specifically, children, I'm in my 40s. I can't swear around my parents. I definitely can't swear at my parents. And there's just certain things you cannot do in the Black community to your elders. It's considered disrespectful and talking back. And so I actually discussed some of those things, and I don't want to give away a lot of the book, but there's some really good things in there, and some very thematic themes in the book that I actually bring out in the book club aid that people may or may not have picked up on as they were reading.
That's extraordinary. That's so cool that you're creating more accessibility for your work. I applaud you for that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Angelique?
I just have a note for you. I was looking through all of your Amazon entries, and Amazon has a tendency of sometimes to break things. Your name and all of your editions are not cross-linked. So if you go to the Kindle edition of Affirmations for the Mirror, it doesn't redirect to your author page.
Okay.
But you may want to look at that because I didn't see it at first until I started searching for it. But great job. I mean, hey, I like the idea. I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had a couple to finish after this week, but I've knocked a few out already. Of course, Deborah has a new one coming that I have to knock out too.
I know, it's great. Tomorrow, right, Deborah?
It is coming out officially tomorrow, but it's the third in a trilogy. So if you haven't read the first two, you might have some catching up to do.
I read really fast.
You do. It's crazy how fast you read.
Thank you so much for sharing, Angelique. I'll be interested to see how you approach several things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your writing is absolutely amazing. I definitely have that on my must-read list.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I need to applaud you for your reading. I thought you did a really great job with it, and I appreciate you because I know it's urban romance, so I appreciate you making it FCC friendly. Thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I wanted, my goal here is to help you reach a wider audience, and if we can put you on TV, all the better.
Yes, I as a scientist, my whole life is, dictated by regulation, and I am required to know them. So when you said TV, I'm like, ooh, okay, can't read that, won't do that. And it was interesting. I actually spoke to my husband about it. He goes, honey, I don't think you can go 2 pages in your book without at least a swear word. And I'm like, I know. I'm aware.
Well, I appreciate your verbal editing for us.
Oh, absolutely.
It allows me to help push you out to a wider
I
audience.
appreciate
So
that.
I appreciate you doing that. And I love the cover of the book.
Thank you.
When I got my copy for the prize boxes, I was just really impressed with the cover of the book. It's simplistic and it's elegant, and I just really love it. You did a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Any other questions or comments for Angelique as we start to wrap up our show here? Go ahead, Luba.
I really enjoyed that passage, and I think it will resonate with just about everyone, because who hasn't had those last words with someone who ends up passing and having those kinds of regrets, and then dealing with it for possibly years or the rest of their life. I mean, you hear about people who it just, really just breaks them because they feel so guilty about the last things that they might have said to someone in the past. So I thought you handled that or described it in a really, really articulate way, and, at the same time was just sort of, very touching and poignant. So.
Absolutely. I felt that the conversation back and forth was so natural. I mean, I felt like I was eavesdropping on this family, and I think that's a tremendous gift that you can bring that to people, to kind of let the reader be that fly on the wall. And I really appreciate that in your writing style.
Yeah, that was difficult for me to get across, but it was something I felt was very important. And the topic itself was very important to me as well. And one of the things that when I do book clubs, I've done I think 2 book clubs with people. One of the things that someone brought up was the fact that they didn't know there was a such thing as a lifetime max on life insurance, health insurance, excuse me. And that was a topic that, my family learned about firsthand with my sister and her heart transplant. But so I learned about that, and I'm just like, why do not enough people know about this? And
we should be screaming this from the rooftops.
Exactly. And so
right.
it was something that I wanted to put in the book, because I thought that, it's a topic that if people were so moved, they could look up and see that it is a very, very real thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm glad that it's a subject that you're willing to broach within your fiction. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So that was something that I thought was interesting, and I thought was a nugget that could be discussed today and still be very family friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that.
I'm still struggling with that one.
Family friendly. I know. It's a good thing you're at the end of the month, Andrew. You have some time.
But yes, that is a difficult thing when the topic of my book is, my book is in the adult section. So
right.
For me, it was that was the hardest part.
I know. Someday I'll get a nighttime air slot, and we won't have to worry about it. But
there you go. We can say all
Pages
those
Promotions PM.
Yeah, Pages Promotions PM.
Pages Promotions after dark.
I'm using it. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I really, really appreciate it. I had a blast with you guys. I'm so glad that we did this. Angelique, thank you for coming, and everybody, I really support you going out and looking for Angelique Clemens and her work everywhere you can. Our Facebook page will have a link to her work in just a few minutes. You can find us at Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival. Again, we want to send out a tremendous thank you to CNM TV. They're giving us just wonderful support and allowing us to bring new authors and their work to you. So we are definitely grateful for that. Come on and join us on Facebook. We're having a blast this month. We're getting to meet some great people and learn about some great books, and we're playing some games and giving away some prizes. And so come on over and join us. Thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful night.
Bye.